Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark. And before we get started today, we have one of our very special authors to share with you. But I want to send you over to YouTube. Follow us over, subscribe over on YouTube. We're just getting ready to go on to Rumble too. So for those of you out there who are Rumblers, I'm going to have some information probably in the next month or so about how you can access us over there. And then don't forget, this is the year of our magazine. Go over and grab your free subscription of Breakthrough Author Magazine. But you can find it at www.breakthroughauthormagazine.com. Go over there. We have great contributors. It'll tell you a little bit more about the publishing industry, the things that you don't know that you wish you'd known, or the things that you need to know going into the project. Also, we highlight some of our great authors, and our author who's on today is going to be one of our features in our April magazine as well. So right into today's guest. Today's guest is Laurina Carroll, and Laurina is a certified transcendental meditation. I hope I said that right. Did I say it right?
Transcendental.
Transcendental. Okay. She says TM. I'm just going to stick with TM from now on. And wellness consultant who specializes in promoting a more natural approach to better health using transcendental meditation, yoga, diet, exercise, and other lifestyle changes. She has been seen on ABC, NBC, Fox, Associated Press, and Market Watch, and earned a BA at the Maharishi Ayurvedic Medicine and a master's in Maharishi Vedic Science from Maharishi University of Management. Okay, I really seriously, I beg you to try to say that like 4 times in a row. Wow. She has been practicing the Transcendental Meditation technique for 34 years and has been teaching it for the last 24. So welcome. It's great to have you, Laurina.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be with you.
So I'm really excited about this because, this is going to be playing in February and everybody is looking for those ways to kind of chill out, stimulate creativity. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this and where you see all this going.
Yeah, so I was 22 when I started Transcendental Meditation, just as a practitioner, not any interest in being a teacher. And I was in New York City, a student. I was studying acting and working very hard to afford my very expensive apartment there, which is probably a lot cheaper then than it is now. And when I learned, I didn't realize how much anxiety and worry I had until I got trained in this technique and it reduced it, if that makes sense. Because I was young and, just sort of going in my, in motion of how, young people do, and busy, you have a hectic social life, you work a lot, you go to school, this is what young people, 22-year-olds, are doing. But I was overworked. I was stressed. I was, doing too much. I think no matter what age you are, there's a limit, right? And when I learned this technique, I felt an inner calm, an inner peace that I had never known. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I just thought, I want more of this. And I'm not gonna, I'm gonna continue the twice daily practice, which is this, transcendental meditation is the basis of Ayurveda, which, I'll go into, but just to say that it's so calming to the mind and the physiology that, you practice it twice a day and the benefits build on one another. So talk about creativity. I mean, I felt more creative. I felt more focused. I started to recognize that I was overcommitting, my body's not a machine at any age, right? And I can't just keep going and going, that my body was rejoicing in this level of rest that I was getting. And so I continued to do it. And then about a year or so later, I met a friend who does transcendental meditation, but he's also really big into Ayurveda, into this other modalities, that you add to the meditation. other modalities of diet, lifestyle change based on Ayurveda, which is a 5,000-year-old practice of natural medicine, using meditation, diet, herbs, like you were saying, lifestyle changes. And so he, introduced me to that. And then for, about 10 years, I just kept meditating, reading books on Ayurveda, training with different people around the country, top Ayurveda experts. And then I decided I wanted to become trained myself in, doing pulse diagnosis and consulting with people and knowing, because I have now been 35 years, for the past 35 years, I've been using Ayurvedic principles. And showing that you don't need to be, heavily medicated. I don't, I'm almost 60. I don't need to take any medications. And I just, use herbs, diet, lifestyle, like that. So that's kind of how the journey started. And I raised my daughter without any medications. It's not that I am against modern medicine. I always want to let people know that medicine is part of Ayurveda. And so we want to honor and respect that. If you get into a car accident, you need doctors to put you together, and if you're all mangled up. And sometimes we need antibiotics and sometimes we need medications, but there is no denying that there is an overuse in this country that is unnecessary. And that I'm trying to teach people to go back to most likely what our ancestors did. Because if you look back at your grandparents and their grandparents, you will find, I know both sides, my Italian and my Irish English heritage, have all different remedies, more natural remedies for different things. And if we go back far enough, we all have that within our own tradition, our own upbringing.
Yeah, that is so true. I myself am pretty holistic. I stay away from drugs and doctors as much as I possibly can. And it's funny you said that, because my daughter, when she comes to me with problems, she's always like, how did you know that? And I think it is something, my side of the family's, most of my family's Irish as well, that we kind of pass down along the line, and it's a mom thing too. I think we do a lot more studying.
Sure. Yes,
So your daughter was actually a little bit sick, I think you mentioned to me.
Yes.
And you use this as an organic healing modality for her.
Right. Well, that's what, but before I, became an Ayurveda practitioner, I got to put two and two together in my, raising of my daughter. And I go to doctors just to set the record straight, to get my blood work, my evaluations. I try to, favor more integrative specialists, but they don't always, the insurance doesn't pay for it. So it is, if you go to a regular doctor, you can get your blood work done. You can get things that are not as costly. So I recommend, even if you don't want to go to a doctor, go each year, get your metabolic paneling, and then, you can review it yourself. But that's how I started to realize that doctors didn't know everything. They weren't always right. And you have to question them. And there's a wonderful book called, Don't Let Your Doctor Kill You, written by a medical doctor. And I love that book. I haven't gotten to read all of it because I've been so incredibly busy, but I just love the fact that it's written by a doctor. And what she goes into saying is that, a lot of times she was recommending things that were not good for her patients. The side effects and the medications and things like that. And so she felt like, she did damage to some of her patients, and that doctors should pull back and try to use more holistic. With my daughter, they couldn't diagnose, well, she had a cold. There's a couple of instances I refer to in the book. So she had a cold and she was 5 months old, and I wasn't yet an Ayurveda practitioner. And so I just took her to the regular doctor, who gave her antibiotics. But she spit them up and she wasn't taking them. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And, when you're a young mother with 5-month-old, you're nervous, right? And then somebody said, well, why don't you take her to, Dr. Ladd, who's an Ayurveda physician in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and, maybe see what he has to say. So he said, oh, you don't need, the antibiotics, and gave her some herbs, which were disgustingly bitter. And so so he told me to mix it with honey, and the honey did not cut any of the bitterness. It was the most disgusting thing I had ever tasted. She loved it. And I felt like intuitively that she was saying, I'm not taking that junk, like she was just born into this, world, like, another dimension, just like, don't give me that. Yeah, you want to take that modern medicine stuff, fine. And so since I really never needed to, put her on antibiotics, because we would try other things first. Now, I'd say this to all doctors, if it was life and death, and when I go to speak to doctors, I say, if I pass out and I'm dying, please, pump me up with whatever drug you can to revive me, because that's where modern medicine is good. In these very immediate situations where you need something quick, right? So I'm not against that. And I joke when I speak in front of doctors, because I don't want them to feel badly about spending, 10 years in medical school. But it's just this overuse. And I just found that when I would breathe and, okay, my daughter's sick, or when she would have a fever, I would just breathe for a moment. And, I had one friend who was a doctor, but he was also a Maharishi Ayurveda physician as well. And I could call him and, and so I had that advantage. I had some friends that were, in the profession of Ayurveda, but they were MDs. And they would say, okay, if the temperature goes above this, you've got to rush to the hospital. So I was knowing what I needed to do to be safe. But I think often, even the over-the-counter, I don't even own one over-the-counter. Like, I don't own aspirin or Advil or anything. I have natural things. So it's not like I don't have pain once in a while. I don't, I broke my ankle. I didn't take pain medications, So anyway, that's, kind of how it all evolved into just being very strong against rushing to modern medicine and having herbal preparations. It takes longer to heal sometimes, the antibiotics work very quickly. So you have to be patient. And I think most people are not patient enough to use herbs and diet and lifestyle when they get sick, because it takes them longer. And if they need to go back to work, they're used to that quick fix. But there's this whole movement of antibiotic resistance, people out there that they have used antibiotics so much that whenever they do need them, they're afraid they won't work. And so are the doctors. The doctors have to keep sort of finding new antibiotics that'll work. And like, I feel for me, if I ever need antibiotics, I may have to take them once in a while. And I would, if I needed to, if it was dire. And they will work for me, because I haven't taken antibiotics in 35 years.
Nice. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one of the reasons that something has to be dragging on and on and on before I'll go to a doctor and get antibiotics. So tell us about your book. Why did you write your book? Why did you feel this was important? And a little bit about the Transcendental Meditation, because there are quite a few celebrities are using it these days, aren't they?
Yes, we have Tom Hanks, Jerry Seinfeld, Oprah, Ellen, many stars, Dr. Oz, he's been doing it for quite some time. I had his whole staff trained. So Transcendental Meditation's been around for it's a 5,000-year-old technique, but it was revived 60 years ago by Maharishi Ayurveda, who also trained the Beatles personally. And in the 60s, those people that are old enough that might be listening, I'm sure have heard of it. Because it was very well known back then, this technique to reduce stress, and that the Beatles were doing it. And they went to Maharishi's ashram. And then even at that time, Joe Namath, he had his whole football team learn, and they won the Super Bowl that year when they were actually the underdog. So all these kind of great stories. But he revived it 60 years ago, and now we have a worldwide technique. It's in every country in the world, major city, there is Transcendental Meditation. So that was Maharishi's feat. He passed in 2008, but this comes from a Vedic tradition, and it's taught worldwide. People of all different backgrounds and religions do it. It's a very simple technique to manage stress, but it does have to be learned in 4-day class, very personalized. And so that's, that's a little bit about the Transcendental Meditation part of it. And then you had asked another question after that.
Well, let me get back to that for a second, because one of the things that you do is a private teaching of it. And when you and I talked, you said this is not something that you can learn over Zoom. So can you explain a little bit about that? Why do people need to seek out a professional like you and go in person?
I mean, I think often people that are doing anything like Calm or Headspace or anything that's out today, they will often, be the first ones to call us. And the reason is that they find a temporary minor relief from their symptoms. But for example, TM helps with acute anxiety because it reduces your cortisol. One 20-minute sitting of Transcendental Meditation reduces cortisol, your stress hormone, by 30 to 40%.
Wow.
So if you sleep 8 hours, your cortisol maybe gets reduced 5 to 10%. So doctors have looked at this research and said, there's nothing else that can do it. No other form of meditation can dramatically reduce your cortisol to that level. And that's been, scientifically proven. Mm-hmm. So, and we have 700 scientific research studies, showing the efficacy of, TM in all different areas of health, lowering blood pressure, lowering cholesterol, ADD, ADHD focus, kind of all the things that we're talking about. And so people that do these other techniques will attest to the fact that they don't work as much as they need to. And so they will hear from a friend, because we are very much referral based. Either their doctor told them, because a lot of doctors are practicing it and recommending TM, or maybe they heard it from a friend. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why we are doing a Zoom platform, but not for the first session to actually be trained. That is a private one-on-one always, and that will never change. That's worldwide that way. And the reason is that it's just so personal. The experience can be so deep. And then also you want to have somebody there to help you with follow-up questions. Mm-hmm. Because if you start meditating, and I think this is, like I said, what all of my meditators are telling me when they've tried other things, if they have a question, they have nobody to talk to about it.
Right.
They're just sort of groping in the dark. Oh, they said to do this, they said to do that. The other thing is a lot of techniques are focus-based, and TM is not. And focus-based meditation might ask you to focus on a thought, a mantra, a word, a flame. I mean, this is a million different ones out there. But that's not allowing the mind to relax. You're staying just on this surface level of the mind. And with TM, you go beyond the surface and you allow the mind to access the quiet levels. We call it the source of thought. It's also called the unified field. And without much effort, the mind has two functions. It has two levels. One level is that it likes to think. And people are like, oh, you have to stop me from thinking. Well, no, that it's like you can't tell the heart to stop beating. Mind likes to think. That's its function. Uh-huh. But what we can do is slow it down so that you can think more clearly. And it acts as like it declutters the mind. And you can actually just be able to focus throughout your day more easily. So this is why it's not taught, just on Zoom, that the first day has to be private one-on-one, but then you go home and you have to practice it on your own, because you do it twice a day on your own. Everybody that does Transcendental Meditation does it on their own twice a day, but then you have the teacher for the follow-up.
Very nice. Very nice. So tell us a little bit about your book, where we can find it, and what's next for you? Where can we contact you at? So you're in Chicago, right? Or
I'm in Illinois? Chicago. I'm in Chicago. So I'm teaching Transcendental Meditation in Chicago, pretty much mainly. But I travel, like my daughter's in Sarasota, so I travel there as well. So, and if people have private courses that they want, I'm willing to travel for private courses as well, and companies, families, whatever. So there is the possibility if somebody wants me to be their teacher, I can, train them. And so I wrote the book because it was very important for me to get information on, how to improve your health that I didn't feel was out there in one book. It's not like anything is new in my book in a sense, although I think that if anybody reads it, they will find information that they haven't found anywhere else. I give the general overview on Ayurveda. I give the overview on why Transcendental Meditation is the technique to choose, and then I go into literally every other aspect of health you can imagine, from the not eating GMO foods and why, like citing science, everything's scientific research. I didn't want to make it too boring, so it's not. If you don't like the scientific research, just over it. But I wanted to do that so people would really understand that everything is grounded in science that I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
EMF, we have to be careful with our cell phones and with, they call it sick building syndrome. Do we have mold? Do we have, magnetic fields too high? There's so many reasons why people would get sick, and you may not know about it. And if you're kind of not doing well and you're sick all the time, you do want to read the book and find out, is there something I'm missing? Do I have a house that has high magnetic fields? And a lot of these things can be done on your own, or you can, have the help of someone who is a professional in your area that might help you to determine how healthy and safe, is your house in terms of your health.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good stuff. So where can we find your book?
So it's really all over. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I mean, I think there's almost every bookstore has it, but of course, everyone it's on Kindle, it's in print form. I will be doing an Audible, hopefully within the few months. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to read it in different ways, whatever's more comfortable for them.
Okay, cool. And the name of it? I don't think we didn't
Perfect
talk.
Perfect Health for Busy People.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.